Hello, y'all. Welcome to the Outsmart Overeating podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Hooper, alongside Coach Steph Miramontes. And today we are highlighting another client in the Unstuffed program. Agne, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and tell them a little bit about your dieting history?
Hello everyone. I'm Agne. I'm originally from Lithuania, but I live in Netherlands since 2017, and I've been on a diet on and off like since 2013, I think. Really seriously, it's since 2018, and I've done everything: cabbage soup, Atkins, keto, counting calories, macros, intermittent fasting, over exercising. I did CrossFit for 7 years. So it's like, I tried a lot of things and did a lot of stupid stuff too. um, I also had, I used to binge. I somehow got out of it on my own, but I still was emotionally overeating, and I was in a really bad place when I started working with you, Leslie, and stuff. So yeah, that was probably my lowest point. And I used to do really extreme stuff like eat on 1100 calories per day, and I lost my period for 2 times. I even went to a doctor for that, and they did all kinds of tests, even MRI and stuff like that, and they said like they didn't even think about asking what I eat and that I over exercise. They looked at me like, you don't have it because you look fine. You're actually a bit overweight, so you don't have any kind of problems with that. So I've done it all, and I really know I'm kind of a classic case of a dieter. A-type, going for it, pushing myself. Doesn't matter, even if I die, I still go to to exercise and stuff like that. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I think
yeah.
that's incredibly relatable to both Steph and I. We were also pretty extreme in our approach. I also lost my period. And that just goes to show you that you don't necessarily have to be underweight for that to happen, right? You just, for me, was due to very extreme caloric restriction and over exercising. That was the recipe that put me in that hole. Steph, similar thoughts or experience? I'm curious for your perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I lost my cycle too, a couple of times, and I was never underweight by any means, but hormones are sensitive and finicky. And if you don't feed them, the body's just like, hey, I have an idea. Let's just not produce anything that might create another human being because you're not even eating enough for yourself. So, yeah, same thing.
Yeah, actually, the body does such a good job of protecting us from our own dysfunctional bullshit. It's like, no, we're not going to allow you to create an unhealthy situation beyond this. That kind of taps the brakes for us. I would like to hear a little bit about your ability to stop yourself from binge eating, because Agne, I will say that is not super common. So do you know what steps you took in order to facilitate bringing the binge to an end?
Yeah, that was one of those diets when I was on a really low calorie, and then I just binged myself right back to my initial weight, and it was more than 10% of my body weight. So it was like really huge gap in between. And then I didn't understand what was happening because I felt like, okay, I'm binging on dry oats of all things, and like I cannot stop, and I feel physically really wrong. But I never experienced something like that, and it was happening on a daily basis. So I felt like, okay, this is not like, I went to Google what's a binge, and like then I thought like maybe I should read some books and stuff like that. So I found a book basically, and I was following the steps of the book. So like writing down what I feel at the moment, what happens before the binge, after the binge, when do I feel the urge to binge, and I was working with it like keeping a diary. writing down with every meal. I was still binging, but then after, also because I gained all the weight, my body didn't feel anymore like it was deprived. So the binges went away a little bit too. So that's kind of the combination of things. But I was still going up and down and overeating. And I was like, okay, now is everything good? Let's go on a diet again. So I didn't even, like make the connection. I felt like this is emotional stuff. And, like I cannot deal with my emotions. So that's probably that part. So it's nothing to do with diet or body or calories and stuff like that. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, then you have learned a lot throughout this process and our time together, I imagine. So you mentioned that you were kind of in the bottomless pit of it all when you joined. And I know you actually joined Outsmart Overeating before you did Unstuffed. And that was just a 30-day program, get in, get out type of thing. It's an introduction to Unstuffed. And we don't really offer that program very often, but you were one of the lucky ones who was able to participate in that. And so what do you mean by you were kind of, I guess, at your worst?
Yeah, I was counting calories, but I was also macros. I was also intermittent fasting a lot, like even 36 hours, 48 hours once a week, stuff like that. And then I would, like you come out of the fasting and you want to eat, but then I overdid it. So then I'm like, okay, I have to compensate it. So then I'm going to go exercise and fast again for the next 2 days. So it's like you eat once in a week or so, like really stupid stuff. And even when I stopped doing that, because I thought, okay, this is probably what's triggering me, I still would overeat. Any kind of emotion, anything, procrastinating, I don't want to work, I don't feel like going to work or stuff like that. Just anything, just food was my solution to everything. And I felt so bad that, you have the guilt, the shame, you have that you restrict and then you binge again, and then you restrict to remedy the binge, and you also exercise. And I thought I just cannot do this anymore. And I've been doing that for 6 years at least. And it was getting worse and I was getting nowhere. And I was like, how long can I do that? And I looked at my parents and, my dad is 72 and hopping on, he's older now. Back then he's still like, when we call each other, he's like, I gained 2 kilos today. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be like that at my old age. And so I thought I was over it after my like going out of the experience with binges. And I thought like, okay, apparently I haven't learned anything from it and I cannot do it myself, because I always thought, the first thought was, I can do it all myself. And when I cannot do it, then maybe I will think about asking for help. But asking for help is pretty hard for me. So just one day I thought, okay, I've been following you for a pretty long time and listening to your podcasts, and just things you said really resonated, but I wasn't ready for a lot of it. And then I thought, okay, Outsmart Overeating, it's short. I can like dip my toe into it and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, I need help. I cannot do it on my own anymore. And I don't have, I was like so tired of this whole cycle and everything. I thought I just cannot do it anymore. So you
Yeah.
have to do something else than what you did before, because it's not working anymore. Yeah.
Right. And I think because we are such creatures of habit, we just get stuck in these cycles. And I often talk about how with dieters, we really just have a handful of thoughts, ideas, beliefs, habits that are just on repeat, and it just creates the most frustrating experience. So I'm curious, because you did have the courage to try something different. I mean, we always kind of joke about how our clients are desperate. They're on this program is their last hope. They've tried everything before they are willing to work with us in this program. And so obviously there was a catalyst. You were in quite a bit of pain and sick and frustrated of doing all the things and not really getting the desired outcome, right? So was it just that Outsmart Overeating, the doors opened and you saw an opportunity and took advantage of it? Or was there just something specific about that time in your life that caused you to want to take action?
Yeah, I think I was just ready for it. And also I was waiting for, I think I was too late the year before for the unstuffed. I was too late for it or to get on the waiting list. So I felt like, okay, I'm just gonna be on a lookout for the next one. And then I didn't know when the unstuffed comes, but the Outsmart Overeating was there and it was short. And I was like, okay, I don't know, because I had coaches before where I had no click and it didn't work at all. So I was like pretty skeptical, like a lot of people are.
Sure.
Like, okay, I don't know how it's gonna work, so I'm just gonna try this short version and then I'm gonna see how it goes. And yeah, it was a really good solution, good choice.
All right. Well, I would love to invite you, Steph, into the skepticism conversation as well, because I feel like this is so common. And of course, we've all been burned by dieting for years. So it makes so much sense that people would hesitate to sign up for a program, whether it's Outsmart Overeating or Unstuffed, which is why we offer the 30-day money-back guarantee. That way people can at least try it, see if they dig it, if it's a good fit, or if it's not. So Steph, what do you think about Agnes' perspective here?
I think it's really smart and I think it's common. You know, we live in a very saturated buy this world. You see so many opportunities to spend your money and your time and your energy. And so I think that it's natural more than ever to be a little bit skeptical. Is this going to work for me? Am I even going to use it? Will I even show up for it? Like, sure, maybe I could get results, but like, what if I don't like it or I just get too busy? I think that it's going on in the back of most people's heads, even if they don't realize it or recognize it. So I really appreciate that she did the brave thing and jumped in with both feet and did Outsmart Overeating and then did Unstuffed too, because I mean, the transformation has been pretty phenomenal. It's been fun to watch, but I do understand the skepticism. Back in the day when the internets was fresh and new, there weren't as many options. So you did kind of hire coaches and you get what you get and you don't throw a fit, whether it's a bummer coach or not. And now a lot of people, I mean, it is Cinderella out there. If the shoe doesn't fit, go try on another one. And I, of course, I'm biased, but I think our shoe fits.
Yeah, agreed. Agne, I would love to hear a little bit more maybe about why you did do Outsmart Overeating and then decided to continue. What was the motivating factor at that point in time? Because again, that was a pretty condensed program. No, not even. It was 30 days, 2 coaching calls a week. It was kind of a deep dive, fast and furious, if you will. And so what was it at that 30-day mark that made you say, you know what? Okay, I think I want to stick around and hang out with these ladies a little bit longer.
Well, because the program fit me very well. I like structure, and there was no doubt about anything or that something was unclear. You said everything, why it was like that, why it's set up like that. Of course, 2 coaching calls was pretty intense to get on it, and it's also pretty, yeah, you you are confronted with your own shortcomings. So my biggest skepticism actually was that I would have to work for it and commit for it and face things that I didn't want to face, honestly. But then after the 4 weeks, I was like, I had such a big change in myself and in my mind and with food and body image. Like food is, I signed up for not emotionally overeat, but I gained so much more that food is like 1% out of 99 things what I gained from this program. So after 4 weeks, I was like, can you imagine what can you reach with doing 26 weeks? Like if I had such a big transformation in 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm not done. I'm not done now either. I mean, you're constantly learning and constantly changing. But I was like, okay, sign me up for the next one because I want to see what's at the end of the unstuffed and what I can achieve with you together. Yeah.
Well, and I definitely want to talk about what you've been able to achieve at the end of Unstuffed, because Unstuffed is wrapping up in just 2 weeks. So you're 24 weeks in deep. a total of 28 weeks with us. And so you've gotten a lot of Coach Steph and I in your ear, for better or worse, hopefully mostly better. But I would just briefly like to understand a little bit more of the context between the coaches you've worked with or the programs you've done online in the past versus this approach and how it was different for you.
Oh, it's night and day because, well, the one coach, the first coach was, of course, for the weight loss, and I had him for 3 months and I paid a lot of money and I haven't lost anything. And his comment was like, wow, you sure maintain really well. And I was like, this is not what I signed up for. So, like, okay, maintenance is another topic, but and it was a weird experience anyway. I also tried like online a course about emotional overeating and emotional like binging and stuff like that, but it was like you sit, you go through all the videos and that's it, and you don't have like, well, I listened for it, I know the theory, how do I apply the theory? So I didn't go any way further with it either. So even though I like make plans and structure and stuff, but when it's like a lot of information, you don't know how to distill it, where to start, which steps are better. And with your program, you're just like, you just take my hand and you go through all the steps, and it's very well structured for me. So that's why I really like it. And the habits, like, the perfectionist mind of mine wants to do everything all at once and work on everything at the same time. And you were like constantly telling me, no, we focus on this part and then we focus on that part. So that was also really, really good. So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your perspective. It really highlights how information is not implementation, and learning is a great tool. I love to learn, but there's a big disconnect between knowing and doing. And so that's really your story could be my story, right? I needed things broken down very simplistically in a step-by-step fashion. So I knew exactly what I was supposed to be doing every single day. And there's never a question or a doubt. And the accountability, I think, is also immensely helpful, and because of the coaching and the mentorship, the customization, because as you know, you were in a group program. So you were doing this alongside other women, and you saw people from all over the world with different obstacles and challenges, although many of the conversations I'm sure you could apply to yourself and your own unique circumstance and situation. But I think it really does highlight how we can't solve the problem from the same consciousness that created it. And information oftentimes is not the barrier or the real obstacle. It's like, I know, but why am I not doing? Steph?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to that. That's really the bottom line, is we can have all the information. That's why everybody has a million books and all the YouTube videos saved for later and all the Instagram posts, and like, yes, that resonated, like that could change my life. But what do we do with it? Where do we go with it? It's really difficult as a human being to just change. We really need step-by-step instructions and someone to check in, not just here's the instructions. Some people can follow some instructions, change their life, A+, like nailed it. But for most of us, in most things, we need somebody to say, hey, you did this. How's it going? What happened? Tell me more. What stopped you from being successful? Let's figure this out. So there's just a huge value in being in community, being in coaching under a coach and in a coaching program and things like that, because you just get to see the growth, not just get the step-by-step information in your inbox. That's fun, to get that first email and open it up and like, okay, here we go. Here's my stuff. But it's really just the step-by-step process and watching yourself grow through it. That's the fun part.
Yeah, I think the emails might be fun and exciting by like up till week 4 or 6, and then the shininess wears off, and then it's just you and your old habits again. And now here we are kind of implementing, and that's why the program is 26 weeks, because we don't want this to just be another shiny object thing where we're constantly chasing squirrel. We want people to, and when it comes to habits, it's all about consistency. And you've heard me say it a million times, this process should get boring. Habits are boring. This should become the backup dancer in your life so you can focus and actually live a life outside of food and exercise. So that is by design. And so Agne, I would love to get a little bit of your insight here now. Like I said, been at it for 28 weeks. What were some of your biggest challenges in the program?
Well, the most perfectionism, all or nothing thinking, like black and white, and especially extremes. So I have Steph voice in my head, like live in the gray. It's like edged forever. And yeah, it's still something I'm working on, and I'm gonna work on for a long time. But that was the hardest part, and it's also so tied into dieting mindset. Like, you know, your mind has to make everything so bad so that you really stick to your habits. Like, this is the idea behind it. So yeah, and also because I'm a more tending to restriction, so then it's like the restriction and perfectionism kind of walk hand in hand for me. Because yeah, I was very into let's do the perfect habits and perfect habit tracking chart, and you know, everything has to be perfect. And even so much so that I would get again to emotional eating because I tried so perfect to be so perfect that it didn't, you know, like you can never attain it like that. And
yeah, it's interesting because we spend so much time in this process with our clients, encouraging them to be imperfect and learning that it's okay to be imperfect and you can still be successful. It's not a requirement for you to be successful. As a matter of fact, it is essential that we're screwing up and trying again. And that's where the lesson is. That's where the value is. If you were just like cruising the whole way through it, you wouldn't need this program. You wouldn't need coaches. I think giving our clients permission to be the student is really helpful, or at least it's a helpful place for me to be in, because I'm like, relief, like I don't actually have to be perfect in this to be good or acceptable. So it's certainly something that I've learned to be okay with, just in being, you know, an owner, a business owner, or whatever, creating a program. It's like, you know what? Sometimes there might be a typo in the email or the infographic or the podcast. I'm like, just put it out there. Like, I don't care. We're going to move on. It's not the kind of thing that I'm willing to get stuck on in my life anymore, because it hasn't enriched my life. It just keeps me living in the past. And I'm like, it's done. It's over. Let's focus on what we can control. So Agne, let's talk a little bit. You mentioned the perfectionism. I guess one thing that might be helpful is, how have you, like, what does it actually look like to be a client and work on your perfectionism? Because I think so many people will be able to relate to that, especially kind of our restrictor clients that are all or nothing, and they are tracking their macros and trying to check all the boxes perfectly. How have you learned to loosen up with that?
Well, one of the best things was the journaling. What also Coach Steph sent us, and the one question she asked me, like, what does the perfectionism tell you? Why do you have to be so perfect? So that was something that I really had to get behind and understand. Why do I need to be so perfect? Because I still got the results with not being perfect, and this literally still to this day blows my mind. But I was like, yeah, for me it was feeling safe that if I'm perfect, if I'm doing all the things, then I'm gonna for sure reach the results and also escape, you know, like what basically is human experience of life in here as a human. So what helped me to like lower it down was first see the results with not being perfect, and then also like I tried to be perfect with my dieting and macros and counting and all that stuff, and I still didn't get anywhere. So like, what does the perfectionism ever gave me besides that I was like a hamster in a wheel? So yeah, that also like really look what kind of results the perfection give you, besides that you are creating your own suffering basically. And
Yeah.
I still sometimes forget it because it's also a habit. So, you know, like you have to work with it too. So, and all or nothing is the same. It's like, really, is it really so all or nothing? There is so much gray in between, like Steph says. And it's also true, like if you really look at it, write down, ask better questions and stuff like that, and you see that it's actually not really helpful or needed in a lot of areas in your life.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that perspective. I think it's so relatable. And I love hearing you say that the perfectionism didn't actually get you to your goal, but ironically, allowing yourself to be imperfect is what has allowed you to get to where you are. So there's a great lesson in there. Did you at any point in time in this process ever feel like quitting or giving up?
No, not really, because it fit me so well, and I saw so many changes and results that I didn't feel like it never crossed my mind. It was difficult sometimes, and it's not easy because, you know, like you also have to dedicate time for it, work with it. Like I didn't feel any aversion to journaling because I did that already before, but some questions were like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to even touch this question. So yeah, so some things like was a bit, yeah, uncomfortable, but you know, I'm someone who signs up. It's the same like with dieting. You sign up, you go all in, and you get obsessed and you want to do it perfect again. So it's like, I'm not signing up for quitting. So like, if I'm gonna do it, then I'm gonna do it till the end.
Well, and to your testament, I think you are the only client we have ever had that has attended every single coaching call we've ever put out. So props to you. That really is a testament to your commitment and dedication, even because we have a 6 p.m. Central coaching call time, and you are up in the middle of the night, basically, to attend those coaching calls. That is amazing. So definitely makes you unique. And I know we both really appreciate that. One thing I want to touch on very briefly, because you've mentioned it a couple times here, and I think it's worth highlighting, is how the kind of like the emotional work was going to be uncomfortable. Like you acknowledged at the beginning that, oh, I don't know if I really want to go there. Like, can we just focus on the numbers instead of doing this kind of pulling back the curtain and looking at our past, or, you know, the wounds that we carry, things of that nature. And so what do you, I mean, but also that's where the healing is. That's where the opportunity for true growth is. So now that you are here and have gone through this process, do you agree with that? Do you feel like that was necessary for you to get to where you are, having those kind of conversations or looking at that part of yourself?
Yes, absolutely, because that's where I, like, you know, you have a wound, you put a
Band-Aid.
ointment on it, a band-aid, and you hope that it's gonna heal. And you know, this process was like ripping it off and just, you know, letting it heal and cleaning it up and stuff. So yeah, it's I didn't want to do it. I signed up and I was like, oh my God, I dread this so much. And then I was like, okay, this is probably where I have to do the most work. And it wasn't about the food, but it was indeed how to deal with your emotions, because no one teaches us that at school or anywhere. Also, like, truly see, but with compassion. So compassion was also one thing was really hard for me, because I grew up and I was used to, like, you have to beat yourself up to uh, reach something in your life. So that was like the whole, again, mind blown that you can also learn through self-compassion and through love instead of pain. And it's still of course uncomfortable, but that's it. If you work and you don't run away from it. I faced the fears that I didn't want to face, and I still have them, and I still am facing them. But when I go through that fear, so, like, you know, dealing with emotion is the same. You want to numb out, so I try to numb out myself with food. So that's why I overate, because I didn't want to deal with the emotion at that moment. And it's not always an emotion or a bad one, or it can also be a good one. It's just you're sensitive and you feel raw, and then you try to deal with food. So yeah, what else is there if the food is not there? So you have to deal with it. And then is the work, the journaling, and what I really appreciate from you both, that you weren't judgmental, and that the coaching calls are really a safe space where you can, like, be yourself. You can cry. I remember like the first calls, I was like so ashamed that I cried on it and stuff like that, but it was really, really needed. And you also call out our bullshit, what we say, like, and certain beliefs that don't work for us. So it's not like you are so compassionate or all kumbaya and stuff like that. It's also like, I'm gonna call you out on certain things. So yeah, that work was really like probably the most transformational in that way. How to deal with yourself, with your fears, face them, see what's beneath certain things, and what are you feeling is telling you, what your mind is telling you, stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I really appreciate the insight there, because it's so different from counting your macros, or right? Completely different way of getting to your goal, but still moving towards it, just from an inside out perspective. And I think I speak for both Steph and I, we appreciate the kind words. We do try to, obviously, we just want to hold you to your own standard, right? And we know what you're capable of, but I think early on, we've been so beat down from dieting that the hope isn't really there, or we don't quite know how to, we have the tools, but maybe they're not being used on the right job, so to speak. And so it's kind of our job to help you not beat yourself into submission, but also learn how to be a good self-coach. It's okay for you to be disappointed in your performance, to want better for yourself, obviously, but we just don't want you to be a dick about it the entire way there. We've already tried that through dieting. So, Steph, I actually would like to get your insight into this, because I know this is an area where you absolutely shine with our clients.
Well, coaching's the best, right? Because you do get to hear things that they don't hear themselves. And as soon as it's out of their mouth, our ears perk up, and they're just talking like they're talking about the weather. And we're like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Like, let's replay that a little bit. And all of a sudden, pieces start coming together, and they're like, oh, okay, that is why I am the way I am. Got it, noted. And so it's great to see that process happen throughout the coaching experience. And then they start catching it as soon as they say it. In the beginning, they never catch it. And then about halfway through the program, or a little, kind of give or take, and all of a sudden they'll say something, they'll say, nope, I heard it. Like, let me say that again. Let me try that again. Got it, noted. And I think the journaling really does help with a lot of that. It just trains your brain to be more thoughtful, more intentional, and start understanding yourself so much better. I know for myself, I didn't know I was an emotional eater. And as Agne's talking, I'm wondering, did you know that you were an emotional eater? As you're kind of describing, oh, well, you eat because you don't want to deal with your emotions and things like that. And if the food's not there, then what else is there? But did you know that you were emotionally eating, or did you kind of discover that throughout this process?
Yeah, I think I discovered it because I kind of traced it back that I learned it from my parents, from my mom, basically. She also deals with, and my dad too, actually deals with emotions, especially boredom, like the constant snacking and, and stuff like that. It's from that. And also it's just cultural. Like when I was as kid sick, then I used to get the best food. So I kind of made a connection that, being sick or feeling low or stuff like that, you need a pick you up comfort food. So that was that. So then I only through this process, like, okay, that's where it's coming from, or like coming after school from work, that I used to want to binge or overeat, because that was the decompression part and stuff like that. But I also didn't have the vocabulary, what kind of emotions, because I had like only, sad, angry, uncomfortable, maybe. Not the whole, there's a whole rainbow of the emotions that you feel. So yeah, I definitely discovered more the connection, like become more aware which emotion was it. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, I have to say that I really do appreciate that you didn't resist the journaling work, even though you felt resistant to the emotional pieces of it, because I think that's a huge advantage for you right out the gate. Those who journal, we see a much different experience than those who need to be convinced to journal, and then they finally decide about halfway through, like, okay, I'm going to stop fighting myself on this. I guess I'll start journaling, whatever. And so I really appreciate that you go all in, and that part of your perfectionist mindset might be paying off a little bit for you. But the thing that's interesting about the perfectionistic mindset, if we can just kind of rewind a little bit, is the idea that it doesn't serve you. And it's so true, because when you are a perfectionist, you've already decided ahead of time that you're just going to do everything. And so you don't really actually experience the obstacles, because you've just run them over with a truck. Like, they're just no obstacle, nothing can get in my way. I am perfect. So we don't navigate the feelings. We just run them over. We push them down, we shove them away. And then when the wheels fall off, so to speak, then we have an obstacle and we never learn how to navigate it. We never learn how to overcome it. We don't have any tools. And so we're on perfect, or off imperfect, failed, miserable. And we wait until we can be perfect again. And that's why we don't ever learn through perfection, because we don't take our obstacles as opportunities. And now when we're over here pushing you to live in the gray and be imperfect and all the things, it's like, okay, now I can learn how to navigate these feelings. Now I can learn how to work through them, instead of just stomping them down and saying, I don't have time for you. Come back in 6 months when I don't have enough willpower to keep this up.
Yeah, it's such a great point. When we're not learning anything, right? We're just kind of bulldozing our way through. We've already made up our mind of how things are going, but also it creates an environment of inconsistency. So we never get the actual result that we are working our ass off for, because it's stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. And when the stop, it's like a full stop. It's not just like a little speed bump. It's like set me back an entire day or an entire weekend or an entire week until, like you said, Steph, we can get that battery charged up again to take action. And so this is why learning how to be okay with the setbacks and not make it mean anything, that we're a failure, that we're a loser, that we're never going to figure it out, is such a valuable skill set and mindset to adopt, because then it allows you to just be more consistent. And the reality is, all people overeat. Doesn't matter who you are, right? From toddlers to 100-year-old individuals, like, everybody is eating, naturally thin, over, whatever, we all do it. It's just the difference is, what are we making it mean? What is the emotional experience? Because if you look at somebody who's never dieted in their life, or a naturally thin person, they're like, yeah, shouldn't have done that. That was uncomfortable. Also, they just wait until they're hungry before they eat again. They're not in their head scheming about how they're going to do more exercise tomorrow and like slash their calories and only eat vegetables and lean protein. That was my MO, was I overate. Okay, now I have to compensate, and I have to, again, beat myself into submission. And I can only do that for so long until, like you said, Agne, we're on that hamster wheel, right? So at the beginning of this process, obviously, day one, we start working on trigger foods. These are the foods that you fear, the foods that we associate with weight gain as dieters. And we learn to start practicing interacting with them consistently so we can confront that fear, overcome it, and adopt that abundance mindset. So we no longer fear it, and we are able to master it and no longer overeat it when we have those encounters. That can be pretty scary for our clients. I know a lot of them are very resistant, and they're still healthifying their trigger foods, or only eating protein bars, or just like one little square off of their Hershey bar. And it's like, no, no, no. We really want you to interact with it and mean it. So I'm curious, you mentioned bringing your binging to an end prior to starting Outsmart Overeating, which is awesome. But this might be a little different than what you were doing. I'm curious for your perspective on how, as a binge eater, now former binge eater, that was for you. Because for me, ultimately, that would have been probably my biggest fear as a binge eater, is confronting those foods and learning to interact with them, because they were the foods that created the binge, or in my mind, that's what I believed at the time anyway. So what was your experience with those foods, Agne?
Yeah, it was, for me, was pretty surprising that it's actually not introducing the trigger foods, because I was overeating on them anyway. So it was like, but like the minute I permitted myself to eat them, I didn't want as much. And it wasn't like, also because we had like 3 meals a day, normal meals, not just snacks. I had enough food, so I also didn't feel like I needed more than that. So I wasn't really afraid, but I was very curious, like, would I be able, because I wasn't able to keep them at home. And like, if I used to binge on peanut butter, that's like the classical also. So YouTube, I felt like, okay, peanut butter jar gets me like 2 days, and after 2 days I have to buy a new one. So I was like, I'm interested to see how long it's gonna be in my pantry this time. But I made also sure that I ate it like every single meal. So for how long can you eat it until you are done with it, when you permit yourself? So I was like, 2 days, and I want to move on to M&Ms. So I was like having all the time different trigger foods, and I was like, I don't really want them as much. I don't want to binge on them. I don't want to overeat. So it was, the permission side helped me a lot, because I was restricting it so much. And I still notice, if I try to portion it out, just because I'm used to portioning out, like meal planning and stuff like that, it's very practical, but then sometimes it backfires, because you, as you said, like, it's not like you put a small bar of chocolate and that's it. You want more, or sometimes you need more, sometimes not. So that was it's also still work in progress, but I haven't had any fear, because I like was okay, I'm permitting myself, so I'm gonna do it. And then this just stops the wanting more, because I notice for myself, the more I restrict, the more I want it, because I cannot have it in my mind.
Yeah, that is exactly why we incorporate these trigger foods into the meals, is so you can learn to trust yourself again, and to ultimately feel in control. And over time, we lose interest in it more and more. And I agree 100%. So much of this is really psychological more than anything. It's like, as soon as we have permission, well, suddenly it's no longer the forbidden fruit. It's not nearly as sexy or as appealing. And the inner rebel really doesn't have much to rebel against at that point in time, because, hey, we're eating them consistently. We're not really breaking any quote unquote rules. And so the psychological shift starts to take hold, and they do become less enticing. The value decreases over time. And the more variety we eat, the more consistently we interact with them, the quicker that novelty, that specialness goes away. But I know it can be pretty scary and intimidating for a lot of clients up front, which is why we see them playing it safe, very safe. But over time, I'm like, look, we can do this the long way, or we can do this the faster way. It's totally up to you, but you can't escape the discomfort. It's going to be there. So, everybody has their own tolerance, I guess. Steph, anything that you wanted to add or ask Agne here?
Couple things on the subject of trigger foods. I will just add that if you're someone who is listening to this going, yeah, but I eat this shit every day and I still want it, just be aware that it's more than just exposing yourself to these foods. There is a way to expose yourself to these foods that is actually helpful, versus, I don't know, sitting down on the sofa in front of a television with your hands in the bag of potato chips and things like that. There's a big difference in the way that we do trigger foods versus, well, I shouldn't say it's a big difference, but it's a significant enough difference to change the outcome in the way we do trigger foods versus well, this is how I got myself here in the first place, was the cookies and the M&Ms and the peanut butter and, whatever. So I will just comment on that. And Leslie, we should probably bookmark that for a podcast, is the nuance between trigger foods and eating your face off like an asshole. But
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you even mentioning that there's structure, there's a framework that we use for our clients. It's not just bust out the M&M, sit on the couch, and like you alluded to, Steph, eat yourself numb. There is a process, a series of steps that we ask our clients to implement. So I appreciate the clarification.
yeah, I just imagined myself being in my depths of dieting days and just being like, yeah, sure, bitches, whatever you say. Next. Next podcast. These ladies don't know shit. So I just wanted to add some nuance there. And the other thing I'm curious about for you, Agne, is I've had the privilege of watching you kind of evolve mentally, emotionally, and physically through this process. And I know that everybody comes into this, 99% of people come into this with like, I need to lose weight and I need to lose it now and I need to get out of my suffering kind of thing. And usually they start out pretty patient, and then there's a little bit of a roller coaster and some comparisonitis and things like that kind of come in. And I'm wondering where it shifted for you in this process of, okay, I'm coming in for a certain outcome, to kind of surrendering to the process and letting it be what it is, so that you could really reap the benefits. Because that's kind of how I've seen it for you, is, you came in one way, there was maybe some bumps in the middle, and then it seems like things just clicked and you were ready to kind of receive the process as it needed to be for you.
Yeah, I actually, when I first signed up, I felt like only thing what I wanted was peace with food and my body. So I didn't even expect that I'm gonna lose anything. I didn't think I'm gonna gain, but I thought for sure I'm not gonna lose anything for sure. It's like, no way, eating like not counting and not knowing what you put into your mouth, let's say like that, or like making perfect meals with, perfect protein and carb and fat macros. Like, no way you're gonna lose anything. And then slowly, as I progressed, I felt like, okay, I had the comparison disease for sure, because I heard other members in coaching calls that they were losing weight. And I was like, okay, I'm not losing anything in here. It's like, and I also had pretty unrealistic ideas of how much I should lose. I still have them, but it's like, it's now not even most important thing. So yeah, I was like, I'm not losing anything. I must be doing something wrong. I'm overeating. My mind is like, again, chattering and catastrophizing everything. And then I was like, okay, you have to just focus on one thing. We're working on one habit at a time, and just like give it a go, because worrying about it is not going to help. And also I was asking myself, so what? Okay, you're not going to lose. So what's going to happen? What's going to change? Like, you're going to go back on the diet? No, hell, no way. I don't ever want to be back in the same place I was before. So I was like, nothing's gonna change. So then that was also what clicked. And when I did start to see results, and it only happened like when we started working on the fullness, then I saw that I was losing weight. So before that, I was maintaining, and I was like, okay, maintaining is also good. The body image work helped me also to realize that my why I need to lose weight wasn't strong enough for me. So I was like, okay, I'm fine with not losing anything. Sure, I'm a bit envious of others, because sure, I would like to be lighter, but it's like, it's not the biggest priority for me. So then that's what when clicked, when I was like, okay, just let it go, just do it, trust it. And if it's not, it's gonna come, but it's gonna be a bonus. So again, journaling and asking your why was probably the biggest click for me at that moment for the weight loss. And it's nothing wrong wanting to lose weight. I still want to do that, but I don't want to work so hard for it, or go back to that obsessive place for the kilos or pounds that I want to lose. It's just not worth it for me. But I'm also in the privilege that I'm not sick. I don't have to do it for health reasons and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, we want to lose them permanently. We don't want to force our body to react and then slingshot back up, which is what all of us dieters have experienced so many times, is the back and forth, which is miserable, so miserable. And so I just really appreciate that you did what we say all the time, where the mind goes, the body follows. And the more we put pressure and the more we ruminate and obsess, then the more difficult it becomes to just be honest about our behaviors and what needs to change and look at them more practically. But as soon as we kind of surrender, as soon as we kind of let go and say, okay, I'm going to trust the process, I'm going to trust myself, I'm going to do the steps, I'm not going to push this or rush this or try to be anyone else who is in the program, because everybody goes at a different pace. It's just not helpful to compare, really. Then things do start changing because your mind has changed. The body is allowed to relax and follow and do what it needs to do because you have relaxed, and then your behaviors start to be in more alignment. So I just appreciate that, those thoughts and that perspective. I think people are always wondering, like, when does it shift? When do I get to like see the changes? And it's like, well, it depends. Where are you starting? Where are you at now?
Yeah, it's so true. People, of course, join the program because they want weight loss. That makes a lot of sense. That's what we've always wanted. But as we get deeper into this process and we have new perspective and these light bulb aha moments, and like you said, Agne, one of the more defining moments for you, recognizing that your why wasn't strong enough. And I don't know how much body image work you did prior to the program. Most people not at all, because they think, oh, when I lose weight, then all my problems, all my body insecurities or whatever will go away. Well, we know that's not true, because many of us have been 30 pounds lighter and still felt not good enough. So, but one thing I wanted to mention is, in this process, this program, we're not having you take pictures or hop on the scale or measure. I mean, you can, by all means, we're not opposed to it, but we prefer to focus more on the non-scale victories, because as long as you are progressing with your habits and your journaling, we already know the outcome. We've done this long enough to see where the true reward is, and it's in observing those daily wins. And that makes us feel encouraged and want to keep going. Whereas our mind obviously has a negativity bias, so always focusing on what's going wrong, what's going wrong, what's going wrong. So throughout the program, we really try to train your brain to look for what's going well. Because if we are thinking positive, optimistic, or at least future-oriented things that make us feel like, okay, I am progressing here, or like, that wasn't my best, but what can I learn from it? Then, of course, we're going to stay the course. A big part of the reason why we quit is because we feel so down on ourselves. And so just by focusing on those wins and tracking that, how do you think that was helpful to you? Because we weren't using the scale. I mean, that is ultimately how we determine the way that a client is progressing, is the way that they are showing up to the calls, the conversations, but also the tracking with the habits and yes, the journaling work as well.
Yeah, it was interesting to observe how how my mind reacted to it, because I was used to tracking everything and very much into numbers and trends and stuff like that. It was I was like actually eager to stop weighting myself and see how my mind gonna react to that, because then you really have no data. But then you start to think like, okay, what is my point of reference? What is for me the progress? Is it then having the perfect chart? So, like my perfectionism was like, okay, not the scale, let's do the numbers there. So, you can move quickly and obsess over other things, but it was helpful because I even notice now I try to weigh myself once a month just because I'm curious. And then I notice the time comes to wait in and my mind starts to chatter again, and like all diety thoughts come up and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I still have this weird relationship with scale. So it was very good for me not to weigh myself and not to track anything, because it gives such a peace of mind, because that's just one thing less to obsess for my mind. And I still noticed progress because I was like, okay, my clothes are fitting a bit looser and like my legs are a bit thinner. Am I imagining things? Then I, jump on the scale like, yes, I lost some weight. But it's like, okay, you notice other things. And also I really appreciated what our members in the group said, like how they measure and track their progress, like, a belt and it's a bit tighter, or you move one hole to the right or to the left, depending. And, like, or your coat from last year fits better and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, you start to question yourself, what is your progress? What kind of progress you want to have? And what is at the end where you can say, yes, it was successful. So for me, it wasn't even scale, looks, or like belt and stuff like that. It was the state of mind more. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I often say and believe that the less we try to control food, the less it ultimately controls us. And so when we can just relax into trying to live in alignment with our values, our goals, then the body weight will follow, right? Where the mind goes, the body follows. And so if we have an objective, a goal of becoming the happiest or the most fulfilled people, or emotionally tuned into ourselves, all of these things that we work in the program, creating hobbies and interests outside of weight loss, right? Like, then our life becomes more enriched, and food doesn't become the obvious solution or the tool for everything in our lives. We become more fluent in understanding our emotional language, our body's physical cues. We start respecting the hunger and fullness. So I tell clients, it doesn't matter what the scale says. How do you feel? If you overeat, if you are not doing the things that don't feel good. And so the process doesn't change. We still need to work towards you living in alignment with your goals and values. We don't need the scale to tell us if we're on the right path or not. You know emotionally if you are, or if you're not doing the things that support that version of you. So I think that that's a big difference, is, we're not just trying to do a bunch of shit over here. We're trying to become someone different. So I just have another question or two, Agne, and then we're going to let you go. Again, so grateful that you came on to share your wisdom and experience. The one thing that I want to get your perspective on now is maybe a before and after picture. How is your relationship with food different today than it was, I don't know, I guess 7, 8 months ago, with holidays or restaurant dining, circumstances like that, where historically it might have been, a little different than today?
It's again like night and day, because I was afraid of I basically stopped socializing or going to eat, dine out and stuff like that, or even, like try something, go to a new cafe with friends, because I was constantly either dieting or afraid that I'm gonna overeat. And I used to overeat because then I would, like save my calories for the whole day and then just go ballistic on whatever was there. So it was also, again, all or nothing, and a lot of suffering. And now it's just, it's not, food is not that important. It is still, like, it's a nice experience. It's the same like a beautiful restaurant and nice waiters and stuff like that. It's part of it, part of experience, but it's more like sharing, going with your friends, socializing. So now I'm not afraid of it. And I had like, holidays was again something where I used to let myself eat whatever and then binge or overeat, and then the next day feel bad, like I'm gonna start dieting 1st of January and stuff like that. So now it's not, I don't want to feel this way, so I'm not eating that much, and I don't fear to eat holiday food. Also, if I want it so much, I can make it in the summer, like Christmas dishes and stuff like that. I mean, it's you kind of disconnect the food from the holiday, or social eating is more about social than eating. So it's not that important anymore. And before, it was everything about food, and I used to make all the strategies before and then compensate after, and make the whole plan, what I'm gonna do, look at the menu, what I'm gonna eat and not eat, and yeah, that was just so much suffering. So yeah, it's really changed a lot, and it's still surprises me how much, again, peace I have with it. And sure, sometimes you think like, okay, I ate a bit more than I wanted to, but it's like, it's not the end of the world, because as you said, everyone overeats, and like one meal or one holiday is not gonna do anything in the large scheme of things.
Right, exactly. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I guess I just kind of have, I always like to ask clients that come on the podcast if they could go back to themselves on day one and give themselves a piece of advice, because we are going to be opening the doors to Unstuffed on April 22nd. So we'll be allowing new people to join the program. If they're interested, they can hop on the interest list for details about that in the show notes. But Agne, if you could go back to yourself on day one, what did you need to hear back then? Because, you know, you're a little wiser these days. You have a little bit more wisdom and experience and a different perspective. What did you need to hear back then?
Yeah, it's a bit hard to choose which one. I think I would, because I was yeah, so kind of anxious to do the work. So I would say just, just everyone says trust the process and stuff like that. I mean, you have to earn the trust first, so it's not always so easy, just go all in. But I would say, like, just do one step, just one thing, what you can do, just one thing now. Like, even if you're afraid, like, sit with it, get comfortable with uncomfortable, and just try, because you did already everything before. Like, all the dieters, did so many things. Like, just try this one, just commit to it. And it sometimes we don't own the results, or sometimes we just see that the results is not what we really wanted, what we thought we wanted, or we get totally something else than what we signed up for, and it sometimes for the better. So it's like, you cannot predict how it's gonna end, and just try it, just for once, just sit with the uncomfortable and see where it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Steph?
I love how you frame that. It's like, yeah, everybody says trust the process, but you have to earn that trust first. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that as it relates to this program, because when we're interviewing people, they're at the stage you're at, right? So they're like, trust the process. So it's great to hear where you were at when you just first started and had that mindset of, yeah, I'll trust it once you earn it. Like, you can't tell me, you got to show me. And because you were skeptical, and because you were honest about that, I think that makes your experience that much more transformational, that much more powerful on the other side of it. So I really appreciated that. I was like, oh yeah, that's good point. Good point.
Yeah, just because you hear a couple of ladies on a podcast or banging away on a keyboard doesn't mean that you necessarily should trust us. I totally understand and get the skepticism. Agne, Steph, to borrow your question, if we check in with you 5 years from now, a year from now, where are you going to be? What is your life going to look like? How are you going to be different? What are your eating habits going to look like?
I have no idea. But I hope that, these habits are just like, it feels now as a second nature. Well, the fullness is still kind of, it's still kind of new. But I just hope after 5 years that I'm at the same place, kind of, maybe a bit less. Yeah, I'm a foodie, so I still think about food a lot. So I like cook and make new recipes. So I always like, think about something like, oh, I'm gonna try this one, and I'm gonna try this one. So it's not like it's ever gonna go away, but I just don't want, I hope that food will not control me as it did before, and just that I have that self-trust that I gained through this program, like knowing that, okay, uh, yeah, I just find out so many things that I was doing that I didn't even stand behind. So I just hope that, because I also like, I'm daring to be to be myself more than before, and like try out new things and fear less, and just, like just do things out of the ordinary, out of comfort zone. So like take the opportunities. So I hope after 5 years, you know, like I'm still alive and I'm doing, you know, like I like my life how it is now, and I just want to keep it this way. It's, of course it's gonna change. Life is changing always, but just, you know, like I never want to go back to the same place I was before. So I hope that I just keep the habits. Not really like putting a timer before food, because I still find it a bit funny, but
Yeah. Well, I will say there is a difference between being a foodie and food obsessed. I think the
Yeah.
reasons behind what we're thinking are quite different when we love food in that way and get a lot of pleasure and enjoyment from the process of cooking. And, you know, I mean, of course, the eating is wonderful too, but it's obviously the thoughts that are driving it, the motivation that we have. That's, I mean, very different, right? I think all of us love to eat. What's not pleasurable about food? It's just, are we, you know, what's, again, kind of what's the reason or the motivator beneath it, which is hopefully quite different for you nowadays as it is myself and Coach Steph here. So, Steph, any final thoughts as we wrap up?
I just want to echo your appreciation and gratitude for you coming on and sharing your experience. I know it's so helpful to hear it from people who have walked through that path before, if it's something you're contemplating. So a lot of gratitude for that. And also, yeah, Leslie, totally agree. I still love food. Food is great. It's part of the human experience. I often tell our clients when they're like, when will I stop liking food? I'm like, what? First of all, why do you want to? But also you have taste buds for a reason. Food is supposed to be pleasurable and enjoyable. What takes the pleasure out of it is the obsession and the constant fear and worry, and being someone who likes food but feels like they need to be someone who forgets how to like it someday, because it's like, oh shit, this is a huge conflict. I really love food, but like, if I'm ever going to lose my weight, I need to learn how to hate it or not like it or not care about it or just ignore it. Like, that doesn't work. That does not work. But we can learn how to love food in a way that feels kind and respectful and gives us the results we want.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Agne, once again, thank you so much for sharing your story, coming on and being vulnerable. I know it's not always easy to open up and be so, you know, these are like the parts of ourselves that we generally like to talk about or share with a broad audience. And so I know it can feel a little uncomfortable at times, but I think it's important that we do continue to talk about it so people can't continue to hide in the shadows and let it fester and keep them in that shame spiral. There is another path. There is another way. And if we can give people hope and see what's possible, then I feel like we have done all that we can here. And you're a big part of getting this message out. So I thank you. And yeah, we just want to make sure that anyone who is interested in learning more about Unstuffed, join the interest list. It's zero obligation. So if you join, it doesn't mean that you're automatically gonna have to participate. It's just to get more information and get access to early action bonuses and resources that other people do not. So why wouldn't you want to get on it? I guess that is it for us today. Again, Agne, big thanks to you and Coach Steph, as always, for hanging out with me today on the Outsmart Overeating podcast. We will be back next Tuesday. Hope everyone has a great week. Bye, y'all.